Welcome, welcome. It's your boy Nova Zeta ENT. You got to start somewhere, right? I tried to start this last year, but life kind of got in the way. I got a lot of kids, I got a lot of job. You know what I'm saying? So, I wanted to start this off a little different, right? I've been spending my time, spinning my wheels, trying to figure out how to make a good introductory video to kind of catch people, and get it. But I just thought it'd be better to start recording, right? Be organic, be authentic, right? My goal is to never write a script. My goal is to get bullet points, maybe, but I want every video to be from the heart, right? One of the things that I'm gonna do with this video is kind of give you a little bit of an overspective of where I'm currently feeling on Black discourse. Like a lot of what I'm gonna be talking about is about the Black diaspora, Black YouTube, things of that nature, things that concern what we got going on, right? I know another nigga doing this. Give me a chance, right? We're gonna be doing other stuff on this channel, right? Things I'm passionate about, uh, Am I the Assholes, like Reddit stories, um, creepy pastas. I love those. Philosophy, things of that nature. But right now, I think one of the things that I'd like to talk about, and remember, this is all off the head. I'm gonna try not to edit this. I think that's gonna be kind of my thing. I'm gonna give like a kind of a perspective where I'm not editing these videos, like reaction videos, things of that nature. I am gonna edit, but stuff like this, I want it to be organic. I want to be off the top of the dome, a stream of consciousness, right? Just consciousness, right? Um, I have a controversial take that I hope you allow me to flesh out. I hope you give me the chance, right, to flesh out in this stream of consciousness, right? Um, One of the things that I think I've noticed, a lot of this discourse, and a lot of this, I'm gonna go ahead and shout out like Young Don the Sauce God, Jew Almighty, Antonio Speaks, Ivan Preach. They've given me a lot of content over the years that's kind of let me know that there's too much internet money for me to not throw my opinion out there, and eventually I may get into circles where I speak to them and I get to put my opinion where they go. Random University, he's a newer YouTuber, who's trying to get on his grind, and he kind of inspired me as well to go ahead and just like put my voice out there, right? If somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. If it takes 2 or 3 years for me to get traction, that's cool, right? But eventually, I may be able to pay for my kids' school, and vacation and stuff like that with my thoughts. Say what you want about the Hodge twins. One of the things that they said, which is actually a part of this stream of consciousness, right? One of the things they said is that like I monetize my opinion because I'm a capitalist. I don't agree with a lot of what they say, but that's smart, right? I've got a lot to say. I say it all the time for free. Why not try to get somebody to pay me for it? I am a shield. I'm gonna let you know right now. I absolutely will like sponsors. If you're now, don't get me wrong. I would only take a sponsorship if I use that product or could see use in that product. But hey, I can be bought. Everything has a price, right? But back to the topic at hand, okay? One of the things that I think we can learn from what you consider trash pandas, I'm gonna wait a little bit further before I use the word I want to use, but I don't know how the YouTube monetization system will work retroactively. So I want to make sure I give myself the ability to make as much money later down the line as possible, right? But one of the things we could learn from those type of people, from trash pandas, hamburglers, as I'm gonna start calling them, is that something that left leaning people like now at work, I'm the most left leaning person there. In my everyday life, I'm the most right leaning person. So I can give you a different perspective on how that goes, right? Um, but one of the things I've learned from the right is that they do not value their morals over the goals of the party. And I think that black conservatives, right, are a really good example of of how, if you want to make a goal happen, you need to be more in tune with that way of thinking, even if you don't agree with the principles of the other side. What I mean by that, right? Like, I'm gonna throw out a few names. I get it. Obviously, it may bar me from talking to them in the future. I would love to talk to them. That's half of this battle, right? I love being able to talk to people I disagree with. Like a lot of FD signifier stuff, on this side of the aisle, I don't vibe with, right? And that's because I'm Midwestern. I'm real Midwestern. You know what I'm saying? Like I have a lot of sensibilities that I got to get away from, but there's a lot that I don't disagree with, you know, um, that they could learn from this side. I'm gonna give you a little bit, like obviously, like I said, I'm uh, not gonna use a script, but I am gonna use bullet points. So if you allow me, give me a second so I can go ahead and and get kind of where I need to get. You feel me? Um, so I kind of come up with something like it's a level, a coefficient, a suffering coefficient. And what I mean by that is like I think in my experience of dealing with people, they're only able to empathize, especially on the right, only able to empathize with a level of suffering up to and higher, like so it has to be equal or higher than a level that they themselves have been able to experience, right? Like if somebody has been poor and then they made it out the mud, they're unable to see somebody who's currently poor asking for a break, even if they themselves got one. Um, so I'm gonna give you a level of what I consider like a kunometer, if you will, Hamburglar level of things that, and this is off the top of the head. Obviously, I'm gonna over time. I hope to look back at this video and give you a better synopsis of what I mean. But you got to put something out there. You got to get something on tape. Got to get some footage out there, to get offers. I think level one, well, level zero is reformed, right? One, I've been watching Amazing Lucas for years because even if I didn't agree with somebody, I find black opinions so important that I think even if I don't agree with somebody, I need to understand where they may be coming from. And I can tell you, it was crazy, right? Because I used to watch the Amazing Lucas's old content, and I remember I was like, man, he's one of them. Like, you can't tell him that he's ever in cahoots against his best interest, right? Like he he may have an experience where he was able to overcome obstacles, and since he can only see his overcoming of that obstacles, he's unable to understand that somebody may be in a position where they can't, and he's unable to empathize with what that means for that person. So, but I remember, like, I didn't watch this stuff for like a year. Like, I didn't get notifications, however YouTube works, however the algorithm works, right? And then one day, maybe like a year ago, a video where he was actually critiquing how white conservatives and white liberals perceive black people. And I said, I got to tap in. Like, dude's really, he did he have a change of heart? And lo and behold, he really did. Now I think he's gone a little bit too much on the other side where everything, it's kind of like Antonio speaks, right? Like, that is his point. He has made it clear that he's going to start making inflammatory videos to show what it's like when white people make inflammatory videos against black people. So he's doing it in reverse to see who he makes mad. And he's been making a lot of white people mad, which is kind of funny because that's the exact thing he is planned on doing. But they haven't interacted with his content enough to know that they're feeding into what he's trying to accomplish. Excellent. Good play on you. Can't wait to talk to you. Trust me. One day I'm gonna be where you are and we're gonna chop it up. You know. But Amazing Lucas has done a great job of getting a mainstream platform of calling out how people can't understand it. It's okay if you say, hey, we've got to be able to get a leg up. You can't be a victim forever. But here's how that has affected you, right? Um, I'll say that's level zero. That's where somebody used to be a trash panda, and I'm gonna call that to his face if I ever talk to him, right? Because if he looked at his old content, he would probably agree. But now he's going like, yeah, because I didn't have a full scope of understanding. I thought that ideals won in the marketplace, not identity, and that's when something I think he realized later. Level one, I'm going to call misguided but well-meaning, and you guys are going to kill me for this. Like in the Black diaspora who've been on this tip, Young Don, I know probably you will, maybe Jew Almighty, stuff like that. But like, you know, I think Anton Daniels and Officer Tatum, and I know you're gonna say this is crazy because who else could be on these other levels? But stick with me for a second. When I'm talking about Anton Daniels, I legitimately believe I've been watching this content for a couple of years, right? I legitimately believe because I think small. I'm Midwestern. I think small. I think that the black people in my circle are more important than the black people in Idaho, in California, in Mississippi, in New Hampshire, in Florida, and Louisiana. Nothing against them, but I'm concerned about my neighborhood first, and then it expands from there and I'll worry about that second, right? But there's no person more important to me than in my family. Then there's no more important person after that than my friends. Then there's no important person out of that than my community, and so on and so forth. And he if you watch one of his videos, it's very informative, right? Like he talked about the 2008 crash where he could not pay for, he lost it all. He had to move back in with his parents, and he had to get it out the mud. And I think that was so formative for him because he has a really bad opinion of Bush, who is a Republican president, and he's a Republican, right? Um, but he said in his lifetime he's never seen a worse president. I didn't think he was that bad, but I was young, right? But he has a specific interaction with that president that he can't see past, right? Even if it is in his own political party. So, I genuinely believe that he said, like, I lost it all and I went and got it. All of these black people who complain that they can't ever go get it, I don't want to talk to them. And I actually agree with him, right? Like, if somebody says they can't, now please look at me and listen and interact in the comments if you think I'm not being clear enough, right? You can acknowledge injustice and difficulty, but if you're not willing to go get it after that, I can't support you. I can't hold you, right? Like if somebody says like, hey, if I had a break, I'm gonna say this a lot. This is gonna be my catchphrase. If you could just get one break, you can have a breakthrough. If you could just get one opportunity, you'll never have to look back. And he got that. And so he can't look back and see anybody who doesn't believe that they can get through if they don't get a break. Now I get what he's saying, right? Like I've talked to a decent amount of leftists. Like my everyday activities, I interact with a lot of left leaning people. And it is hard for me personally to hear people of the more Caucasian uh, persuasion tell me what I can and can't do because they find it off putting when I'm like, no, I can get it done. I just need a break. I just need some level of interference that allows me to get over this hump, and then I ain't never gotta look back. I can make it happen, right? Um, but I think he can't foresee, like he knows where his bread is buttered. He knows that if he's sensational about all these people, when you can tell when you watch a video of somebody who's just trying their best not to take accountability for what they got going on. He knows that he can get money from that. He can further his objective and he can take care of his family. I respect that, right? I don't agree with the way there's some things, especially his HBCU video, where he said if his daughter wanted to go to HBCU, he said, you can't do it because black people aren't setting themselves up for success. Stop. If you believe in yourself, you believe in your children. Please miss me with that, right? And then I'm going to give you a spicy one, Officer Tatum. I just think he's so Christian. He's such a devout Christian. And maybe young Don could probably corroborate this if he ever sees this video, right? Where it leads you down a conservative pipeline, right? Like you could meet liberal Christians, but it doesn't feel Christian unless it's oppressive. Like, whenever I meet a person who's just a regular guy who's a Christian, he doesn't feel Christian because he's just chill, he's relaxed, right? I don't feel someone's a Christian until they're willing to push their ideals on somebody else, right? And I think that's what Officer. I know Officer Tatum when he's in a room with other black people. This is what I think about black conservatives. I know when they're in a room with other black people, they feel black. You can't tell them that they're not black because they are. Their ideals are just so guarded in one respect that they don't feel like they're for the people because the way they exercise what they think is best for the people doesn't come from an understanding of what could happen, what has happened, and what needs to happen. Their only thing is the result. Their only thing is like, I did this. If you do this exact thing, then you'll get to where I am without any acknowledgement of different standards, different situations, and things of that nature, right? So my level two, um, Stevie Knight, and it's my losing the plot level, right? And again, I would say it to him to his face. I've got no problem because I would love to chop it up with him. This is the stuff I enjoy. This is what I love. This is half of my day. Half of my day is listen to YouTube videos of people do what they do because I want to understand them better. Stevie Knight, I don't think he has the processing power to understand what he's saying isn't in the best interest of his people. You know, I think that the best thing that happened to him is interacting with ABBA because it's allowed him because you can see it in some of his newer videos, and I got to do a better job of watching more of his stuff, right? But like he'll say something and go, hold on, let me think about what I'm saying before I say it, because people might take me the wrong way. And I think those interactions are great because he's so hung up on black or white. It's kind of funny, right? Because he does have a black and white viewpoint of how the world works, right? Because remember, he said, like, I used to be all this victim mindset. Liberals are victims, victim, victim, victim. Now that I'm a conservative, I'm getting my weight up. I'm getting my weight up, getting my weight up. That's a very binary view of a complicated series of events, right? He's saying that because he stopped looking at himself as a victim, he's able to succeed and rise. And it wasn't until he got away from liberals that, no, man, like, you could be in a room full of liberals, ask a couple questions, and figure out if those people are for you. You know, if I'm in a room full of leftists, I know I'm going to have a hard time because they're going to say stuff where I'm like, hey, man, you got to have some accountability. And they're like, well, accountability, no. Like, right? Like, if I I have to have accountability first, and then they say like, hey, if I could get this, if you could help me with this, then I can get to the next level, right? And they would know that's true because I know enough about what's going on to get that done. If I'm running conservatives and they're like, oh, if you just pull yourself up by your butt, stop. Everybody needs help, whether it be generational wealth, whether it be the ability to not have to have your spouse work, or if you do have to work, having a grandparent who doesn't have to work so you can drop them off. There are things that can happen in your life that give you a leg up over other people, right? There are things. I'm a clear proponent of things being done the right and the wrong way. And again, that may be because I'm Midwestern, right? I can tell, I can say like, hey, I think this thing is wrong, but if this thing does happen, here's how you can navigate to get it done. I think Stevie Knight, when he interacts with things he doesn't understand, he can only understand them through a lens of what got him out of his philosophy, right? And I think it makes you a useful tool because you're not able to articulate what you mean, right? An example I can give you is if I told you, I think I've been long enough in the video to be able to say something like this, right? If I said, hey, you shouldn't have sexual relations with a child, and then you say, yeah, you shouldn't have sexual relations with a child. And then the second thing I say is, yeah, because it's illegal. And you say, no, because it's the wrong thing to do. Now you're looking at me crossways because we said the same thing until we elaborated on what we meant by that. Now you're able to understand I'm not thinking the same thing as you. Now please don't clip that up later on. I hope I should have said it the other way. But you know what? Hey, if it gives the clip farmer something to do in a year when I make it, because I'm gonna make it, good for them, right? But I think his inability to look at the gray. Like remember when he was like, "Oh, starving children, starving children." Colloquially, everybody, I would say 100 people out of 101 people in a room would know they didn't mean bones showing, ribs showing through their bodies. They know food scarcity is the same thing as starving in a first world country. And for him to not be able to understand that means that he couldn't possibly have the same conversation with Alba that anybody else would. And I think I fault Alba for that because he didn't do a good job of rectifying that issue. Because you could see when you looked at his face, Stevie's face, that he wasn't understanding what was going on. He was looking for the words to be so exact that it made it harder for him to be able to maneuver and get where he needs to be, right? Um, but that's my second level, where somebody actually go starting to go upon the line where they're not actually trying to hold people accountable and do better. They're becoming a useful tool for the other side, right? And that leads me to level three. You might think this is spicy, right? But like black conservative perspective, I actually had to unfollow him because I couldn't stand to hear because the joke was the point. Like Cartier family, um, and black conservative perspective and Hodge twins. So those are my level three, right? Where it's not about the lesson anymore. It's about the punishment for the monetary gain because that's what their audience likes. It's Tim Pool. If you remember back in the day, if you go back a couple years ago, Tim Pool felt like a disaffected liberal. Like he was a liberal person who wanted to get a lot of stuff done, and he felt like he couldn't get it done. And I'm like, man, this guy, he speaks a language I understand. He just needs an outlet. He needs to feel comfortable. But if you look at his current content, it feels corporate. It feels like a shield, but for the other side, right? And I know I say other side lightly, but it feels like he feels like a conservative shield now. Old Tim Pool would be disgusted by new Tim Pool because he got so far off the rails. He knew where his bread is buttered that he started getting such good confirmation bias he couldn't go back. Like that's one of the things I'm afraid. I personally am also afraid of. Right? I'm afraid of I'm afraid of being in a room where I'm the smartest person or the strongest person or the fastest person because eventually you'll think that that's who you are. And then you'll get in a room with other people who are bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, and you won't know how to act because you haven't been confronted in a long time with somebody being better than you. And that's where I think those three are, right? Like Hodge twins are used to be comedians, used to be bodybuilders, excellent. Then now they're using their content to hold black people accountable, but it's just them showing the worst aspects of black culture. And instead of saying like, hey, this is how I would handle that. This is where I would go. They know. They say, hey, white conservatives love our content. White conservatives don't care about nuance for black people. I don't care about what a white person in Idaho is doing. It's not that important. I don't care about what Mexican people in Brownsville, Texas, are got going on. It's not that important to me. The border issues in New Mexico are too far away from me for me to be genuinely concerned about those. I can empathize with them. I can't be concerned about those things, right? The black conservative perspective in Cartier family, in one of the videos, and event, trust me, I'm gonna actually do reacted, edited content so I can back up these claims. I just want to make sure I get my name out there. You know, there's a video they said like, oh, because one of them's reasonable. One of them, like one of the guys is cooning like I mean, I've never seen it before. If there's three of them, he sits on there. He sits stage left. You know, um, but everything he says is he's giggling, he's laughing, guffawing like at everything, right? Then he's saying like, yeah, black people are the most violent. We're the stupidest. We're the ugliest. And then the guy in the middle is like, no, I mean we went to a few events with other black conservatives. We didn't wild out. It was a nice time. We felt comfortable. It was great, you know. And then he was, oh well, that's because it was conservative. No, it's because you can judge yourself by your lowest common denominator. But then you have to ask, why are they that way? Because I say the same thing all the time. If I go to a restaurant and people are wilding out, and I know I'm gonna have to tip extra because they're wilding out. I don't like that, but I'm willing to do that in order to be able to interact with my people, right? Like I say it all the time. I'll look to go somewhere where black people are first, and then I'll go from there, right? If I can't find it in black made, black owned, whatever, I'll go for somewhere. But in that same respect, I expect respect. When I go to a restaurant, I expect the service to be good, the food to be good, the price to be reasonable. I'm willing to pay extra because I know you have to scale the business, right? But I expect respect. But if I go somewhere that's white owned and black people wilding out, and I don't mean like enjoying themselves, please. Right now, you understand that there is a difference between just black people. We enjoy ourselves a little different. When I laugh loud. I laugh with my hands, I laugh with my body. I'm friends with the black people, right? So when we're in a group and we're laughing and we're enjoying ourselves, one of us is halfway out the room, the other one got in his car, drove home to finish the laugh, and came back. We understand how that goes, right? But it doesn't make us any less of people. It's just the way we express ourselves, right? But they're doing it to the detriment of our people. And it's okay if they said, like, hey, we know where the money is. We're going to make fun of black people. We're going to say we're the worst. White people are going to give us money, and we're going to go about our day. I respect that. But if say, hey, we're doing what's good for black people, where have you spoken on what you think we should be doing? And not just we, right? Because I don't speak for all black people. We are not a monolith. But to go back to my point, one of the things we can take from conservatives is that they are actually very monolithic, right? I know Young Don, Jew Almighty, and Antonio Speaks don't see Myron as black. I personally do. But they do a really good job of saying, like, he's not black, but he spends a fair amount of time worrying about black issues. To me, he is black, right? So I judge him with the same thing I would judge other black people with, right? When I hear Myron speak, I hear a person who doesn't understand that the white people around him see him as black, right? They see him as or some sort of other, right? It's in our best interest to be a monolith with people like that because one of the things that has always impressed me with Myron, right? He spends so much time trying to fight Alba, not preach though, for some reason. Alba, right? That when that one white supremacist who said like, "Hey, I'm glad you're on our side, but once we win and we get America back, whatever that means, are you willing to leave?" And he said, "No." He goes, "You know what? I'll come to you and I'll fight you right now. We both live in Florida." And he was quiet. He was docile. The way he interacts with white people feels subservient, feels cuckish, you know. But he's willing to have smoke and aggressiveness towards black people because I think he thinks that's the only way to interact with other black people that we have to be yelled at, cajoled, made fun of to get the point. But white people are a higher entity who can speak down upon you, but you can't speak up to them because he's never answered that question. Somebody asks, like, why weren't you willing to go fight that guy? And he said, well, Abba was the one running. He's like, no, no, no. Abba didn't ever challenge you to a fight. This guy did, and you never did anything about that, right? But he's still loyal to the cause. And I think that's something. The whole summation of what I was trying to discuss is that I think we can learn from that, right? It's how you support in public and admonish in private, right? One of the things that the left does poorly is that they require ethics and empathy to make decisions. If they have somebody who doesn't align with them philosophically, they can't align themselves politically with that person. The right does not have that problem. They could have somebody who says, hey, I'm on the right. I'm not going to do any of the tenets that means, but I'm going to tell you I am on the right, and that's enough for them. The loyalty is there, it's built in, it's baked into the party. Someone can do the exact opposite of what their ideals are, and they'll still they'll still build a coalition with them in order to seize power to push their agenda. And I think that's something that, as a black diaspora, as black people, if we want to move forward, we have to do a better job of. Because it's okay to be the most right leaning person in a left leaning room. I just think that as black people, we're uncomfortable with the fact that there are way more black people who are on the right side of the fence than the left side of the fence. It's just that the right side of the fence has a lot of racists on it. But if you operate in a small scale, this is one of the things I agree with Anton Daniel. I'm about to wrap this up in a little bit because I say I've been talking for a while. It's a good first video. I'm gonna figure out how to. I'm gonna publish it. We're gonna see where the chips lie, right? But Anton Daniels is so much more concerned with his community and his family and things of that nature, putting himself in a he doesn't. I bet you he doesn't even consider him in the same pot as like Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson and those things. They may say some things that he may agree with on the offhand, but if he were in a room, I bet you his every day, like just like me, his every day is spent with other black people, and he's chopping it up with other black conservatives, and they're not on this end of the spectrum. They're right here. They're on this right side of the spectrum, where it's just like keep your family solid, keep your people solid, get your money right, go from there. And we're unwilling to understand because people on the left think way too broad. They think way too big. They're unwilling to think in their community. He sees himself as just black, and he sees everybody who's black, who's ratchet, as just black people who aren't on his same wavelength. He doesn't think of himself that, hey, all black people have to be this way. He's saying, I'm getting my bread from my family. You're just not smart enough to realize that this is what you need to do as well. And one of the things we can learn from black conservatives is you've got to think way smaller. You got to think in your community first. Get your family straight. Get your people straight. Get your money up. You can affect way more if you're in a position of power, in a position of substance, in a position of stability than you can worrying about the world's problems. So again, it's your boy Nova Zeta ENT. Thank you for listening to at least 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the rant. I promise you, as I get this going, nothing can stop me. I'm gonna have good edited videos, good creepypastas, good Reddit stories, much more on the way the Black diaspora works with American politics, and we're gonna go from there. Trust me, you come on this ride right now, in a year you're gonna be surprised where I go. One.